So I think we're going to get started again. Next up, we're going to talk a little bit more depth about the long distance service line um, with my friend Larry Chestler. And Larry has agreed to spend some time with us to take a little bit of a deeper dive into the long distance side of the house. Um, and so, Larry, do you have, I don't know if you have slides or anything, or if you're just going to deliver some
Well,
remarks.
hi, Jim. Good morning. I do have one slide that I can project, which is just a brief outline of what I thought I would discuss with you guys today. Just to check with you, do we have 30 minutes for this?
We have 30 minutes.
Okay, so I'll try to keep my comments to the first half of that and leave the second half for questions and dialogue. Does that sound good?
That's perfect. I just want to say before we start, for the benefit of our audience, Larry, like a lot of other folks in Amtrak, had a lot of titles before this morning, and may actually still have about 24 of them right now. Isn't that right? But Larry comes to Amtrak from a long background in transportation and does have airline experience as well. And Larry, like Stephen, throughout the COVID, the pandemic crisis, when I've had questions or concerns, I've been able to speak with Larry directly, and he's been as responsive as he can possibly be. And I really do think that it's important for folks to recognize how accessible and willing to listen and willing to do what's possible Larry has been through all of this. So please, now I'll let you go, but I wanted to make sure that was out there. Thanks, Larry.
Well, my pleasure, Jim. Thank you. I appreciate that introduction and your kind words, Jim. Thank you. It's really a pleasure to have a chance to meet with you and your extended group here today. So thanks for inviting me to join. It has been a challenging and interesting time to be leading the long distance service line at Amtrak, but it's been a great experience. I'm going to project this slide now. Let's see if that works. Are you able to see my screen?
I see a slide. Yep.
Okay. So I just thought I'd cover a few topics with you this morning. Of course, most significantly, we have been through a pandemic. You might have heard about that. And reducing the long distance operations through beginning in October of last year at the beginning of this fiscal year for us was, of course, an extraordinary action, a calculated risk, I will say, for us to execute that properly and to try to provide, appropriate and the best possible service to our customers and our nation through this period of, unbelievable and immense uncertainty. Reducing to 3 times a week of operation on 12 of our routes was a significant change, obviously. And I must say we've under the circumstances, we have been reinforced and satisfied that it was the right thing to do, that we maintained great connectivity on the network and still allowed people to do what they needed to do. Our customers showed enormous flexibility and their willingness to travel when we were operating. Through this period from last October until the current and until mid-May or late May, we have I think exceeded our own expectations in terms of ridership on the long distance network and our ability to generate revenue and to keep the operation going reliably. It's been I think and through the heart of the winter and through the worst of the pandemic time period, it felt from our service level and our product offerings and our onboard services that it was appropriate to the environment. That all said, we're delighted to be at the point we are now, where we are coming out of that time period and have a firm plan, as you all know, for restoring all 12 of the routes to their previous daily schedules, phased in, as you can see here, over the 3-week period starting just before Memorial Day at the end of May. And so, and furthermore, that action, of course, is only about 5 or 5 weeks old. It was in mid-March or early March, actually the day that the funding for the pandemic relief bill, the American Rescue Plan Act, passed. That day, we were prepared and ready to restore the daily service, and needed that confirmation of support and funding, and we're delighted to receive it and really happy to go ahead and get those schedules back out for sale. And we just completed last Friday a significant promotion to try to address the fact that beginning in the summer, we've got a lot more capacity that normally would have been for sale much earlier in our booking curve, and allow customers the chance to sort of make their hopefully post-COVID or COVID contained plans. And we've had really strong response, and we're really encouraged that the summer is going to build nicely and come together in a way that will reinforce that this was the right action at the right time, good for the country, good for Amtrak, and good for our customers. And so really great news on that front. From an operational standpoint, the teams at the company are doing all of what they need to do to prepare for this. And of course, the return of well over 1,000 employees from furlough status is going full steam ahead, and it appears to be going very well. And again, not concerned about any there will be challenges undoubtedly as we remobilize both equipment and people to get the network back up to its normal structure, but feeling good about the progress. So all systems go. Just shifting a little bit, I want to talk about the status of the long distance fleet. As you know, the Viewliner 2 sleepers that are expected to be fully delivered finally. This has been a long process, but those will be into the final deliveries by the end of this year. And the milestone in terms of into service is that in the summer schedule, we will actually have essentially half of the Viewliner 2 sleeper fleet in service and operating on the Silver service for the summer schedule on both the Meteor and the Star. So we're happy about that. We've had a limited number of cars, started with 4 cars, a single pattern on the Silver service earlier this year, and it's been going reasonably well, still working through the issues of new cars in service, but looking forward to having those fully delivered and fully into the fleet by the fiscal 22 planning year. The other significant fleet news, of course, is the impending into service of the new ALC 42 locomotives. They are going to significantly reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. They're going to improve fuel efficiency and hopefully also improve reliability, and they sure look nice. So we're looking forward to that coming into service this summer as well. The next thing I want to mention is just the investments that we are making and continuing to, demonstrate our interest, our commitment to long distance service and continuing to improve the customer experience. We are beginning now and actually in progress with what will be about a more than 2-year execution to complete, but a interior refresh on the full Superliner fleet and on the Viewliner ones, the existing the sleeping cars that we have. All of those cars are going through the similar interior refresh to what you've seen on the Am fleets, what you've seen on the Horizons in the state services, which but includes coaches and sleepers and diners and lounge cars, the Sightseer lounges. So that means in all cases, new cushions and upholstered surfaces, similar to what you've seen in other trains in the type of material and color scheme, new carpets, heavy cleaning, new curtains, etc. So it's a big project. New tables, in fact, in the dining cars or table surfaces. And so we're thrilled that that's happening. We expect the first of those to actually be rolling out, starting with coaches as early as this summer in June. So that's going well. We are also, as part of that effort, we did a pilot last year on the auto train to try out new soft goods, meaning higher quality blankets and linens and towels for the sleeping car customers, and that's gone really well. And we are working on a full system rollout that will happen by the end of this summer. So all sleeping cars across the country will have this upgrade in place. And we think so far feedback from our customers has been outstanding. It's a nice step up, and we're pleased to get that in place. And a new item that you may or may not know, we actually have discontinued as of last week the sale of the the legacy USA Rail Pass product. It is an exciting product. It's one we haven't executed on very elegantly, which is to say that, and many of you who may have tried this product know that it is paper-based, meaning until now it's required written tickets, printed tickets provided at stations, and customers dependent on Amtrak staff to assist with making bookings, making changes to bookings. And we are with this rollout we're shooting for this summer, the intention is to make the product much more self-serviceable, e-ticketable, most importantly, which allows customers to then use tools like Amtrak.com and our app to book, to make changes. Of course, there's always help available from our contact center and at our stations, but we're hopeful that we can really make the product much more attractive, and look forward to launching it, sort of a new push for the USA Rail Pass later this coming summer, and really excited about that. And I'll say in the context of all of these fleet investments and initiatives, our commitment to long distance, I think, is reflected in the continued desire to invest in these, in our capabilities and the quality of what we can offer. And of course, that requires, making that investment requires that we get increased and reliable funding on an ongoing basis. And of course, things have been very encouraging in terms of congressional support through the pandemic to help us get over this incredible time. But as we go forward, with reauthorization and annual appropriations, we're going to continue to need that reliable partnership. So, and we appreciate what the RPA does to help secure that and get that message out. So I thank you in advance for that. Two more quick things I'll add. On time performance through the pandemic, long distance on-time performance has actually been a beneficiary of less traffic out in the rail network of various kinds, and our on-time performance actually improved fairly meaningfully over the past 12 months. Unfortunately, things seem to be sort of regressing more back to our historic norms, which are not great, as you well know. And we're very interested in continuing to improve on-time performance, working with our host railroad partners. But the preference enforcement legislation that you all are familiar with, really we think is essential to Amtrak and to the future of the long distance service in particular. So continue to focus on that. We're hopeful that that is going to give us some improved commitment and alignment with our hosts, and more to come. Finally, I just wanted to share with you, we are actually planning for mid-June and putting final touches on what we think will be a nice event that we're planning to hold in Chicago at Chicago Union Station, really in the context of the 50th anniversary series of things going on around the company, but a very long distance focused event where we hope to showcase for the media these, the kind of commitments I've talked about here and the things that are going on. And ideally, I'm sure you may have questions. I'll mention that we are vigorously working on plans for restoration of traditional dining on the long distance service in a post-COVID plan for that. Sort of showcasing all of our plans is what we're intending to do in June. And, Jim, we'd love to have you join us and maybe put out the invitation to a few others and when we know the details on that. So hope that you can be in Chicago in sometime in June. But I will stop there. And Jim, questions from you or anybody? I'm ready as I'm going to be.
Okay, Larry, thank you. And I'm happy to come to Chicago and take a walk through. That's terrific. Thanks.
Great.
Thanks very much for that. As you might imagine, by my count, we're up to 23 questions that have been submitted to me, and we have looks like 22 minutes or 12 minutes.
Okay.
So I don't think we're going to do that. What I'd like to do,
you don't want to do like lightning round?
No, I don't think that's fair.
All right.
What I'll do though, if that's okay with you, just as I did with the previous guests,
Yes.
We'll try to get through some of these questions, and then I'll kind of shoot you the written questions that we have, and we can maybe get some answers back for the folks. But we sort of started there with the traditional dining, so let's go ahead and talk about that a little bit. I mean, I think it's fair to say that a lot of the passenger community was really glad to see that Amtrak plans to restore the traditional dining that we lost to the COVID restrictions, so long as it's safe. You and I have talked about that, and I'd like to kind of roll a couple of thoughts here together, if I could.
Sure.
One is, how is that going? I mean, the last time we talked about this, there's just sort of phased thing that has to happen to get that rolled out, and it wasn't really clear what the kitchen's going to look like or how that's going to interact. But at the same time, one of the things that we've been pretty critical of is the way the coach passengers are no longer able to go buy a meal in the diner.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could maybe talk about that as well. Are there plans to restore the coach passengers' ability to buy meals? And honestly, if we can make it work in the West, why can't we at least think about trying to make it work again in the East?
Sure. No, a great couple of questions, Jim, and I think I'll take a crack at addressing all of them. We are certainly proceeding with plans for restoring traditional dining, as we've discussed. In fact, the intention is not only to restore, but ideally to make some improvements as well. Use this opportunity to rethink a couple of things. And again, until we have those issues really nailed down and actually what we think we can execute on this summer as opposed to, maybe further down the line. But we are very much shooting for, unless we hit some unanticipated hiccups right now, we're really shooting for restoration in the June timeframe. And I just don't want to, commit to final details until we've had a chance to make sure we're doing it. But we're working on, sourcing food, figuring out what changes to the service delivery we can do. All of this, of course, as you said, in the context of, making sure that it is safe from a public health and safety standpoint. But we feel pretty optimistic that, that things can change. We expect that, until further notice, the idea of service in the dining cars at alternating tables may still be the norm until we get, CDC guidance or other clarity that I think it's consistent with sort of spacing of tables in restaurants in the static world, in the non-moving world as well. But the idea that, maybe, more focus on actually serving in the dining car. And I'm sure there will still be, we've been really encouraging people to dine in private rooms through the pandemic. And I think generally people have really appreciated that and have been inclined to do that for the majority. And maybe that'll start to shift, more toward people wanting to have the dining car experience. We of course won't be doing communal dining anytime soon with parties who aren't traveling together at the same tables. Eventually, intend to restore that, in a back to normal world as well. But anyway, that's with the plans with regard to restoring traditional dining. In terms of coach customers and the dining car, it's something we've really been thinking about is that whether the dining car really is and should be an exclusive benefit of the sleeping car product, really the first class product on the train. And we're inclined to do that, but with a couple of nuances that I think make it try to address the issue of the needs of coach customers as well, especially those who are, going to be on the train for a long period of time. The first is that we have intentions to, and are really making plans also for this summer, probably as a fast follower to the service, the dining restoration, is improvements to the National Cafe menu. More substantial items, more variety of items, and still acknowledging, and price points as well. We have customers who, are price sensitive in terms of their food and beverage needs, and we want to continue to, offer attractively priced, economy items, but also provide more choices and more hearty kinds of things, and hopefully some healthier things as well. And so, addressing that is one component. Another idea that I will say, we'd sort of probably welcome your feedback on, which is more in the conceptual stage, is the idea that maybe instead of, the way we've traditionally made the dining car service available to coach customers is by having menu with prices and price points of individual items. And, we've talked about, well, what if we instead made more of a product where basically a coach customer who wanted to have a dining car experience, whether that's for a single meal or for, a bundle of meals, could just, sort of purchase that as a product and say, you're buying
like a meal upgrade kind of thing.
That's right. And this relates to us trying to make things that, give customers more choice and let them have control of it. Ideally, we're not quite there yet, but we should be there soon. The ability to have from an app, the ability to say, I want to, I'm on my trip. I want to go ahead and do this or do that, or take this option or order this. And that's the idea we'd like to follow. We may not be able to execute it right away, But, it's not like 3 years from now. It's more like, in a reasonable time frame, we hope to be able to do that kind of thing. But again, that's sort of work in progress, and would welcome your thoughts on that. And
Okay.
finally, Jim, I know you asked about the East, the markets that we have implemented what we call the flexible dining model, the contemporary, less formal approach. And we really are looking at the changes that we're proposing for the traditional routes, and seeing what of those concepts and ideas could be potentially retrofitted back to the East routes. And again, too early to really know. And we want to make sure we get the restoration right first. And so, expect to go through this summer and into the fall kind of status quo in the East routes. But turning our attention, I mean, it's very much part of our thought process right now is, what can we do? We're willing, if we have the capacity and the wherewithal to invest a little more in whether it's in service or in presentation or food quality, we want to make a product that we're proud of and can deliver. So, where we're at is certainly, just a point in time, but it's, we're going to keep making improvements.
Okie doke. Boy, we've got a lot of questions here.
Ah.
Let me go for this one. I mean, I can speak to this even personally with
Sure.
two of my sons now.
Hmm.
And we've seen the price for the sleepers just increase dramatically during the pandemic because people sort of had that aha moment. Oh, this is the ultimate in socially distant travel, right?
That's
We
right.
get it. Now, obviously, we want to see a more affordable fare structure, but I do think that just that demand that really does show the value of sleepers in the long distance sort of product mix as a source of revenue for the railroad. This is sleepers are not an afterthought. They're banging down the doors for this stuff.
That's right.
Are there ways that you or that Amtrak's looking to kind of improve its marketing around the sleeper experience, like maybe sort of shift that way a little bit,
Yeah.
and how is that playing into sort of the assessment on what comes after Superliner, whether it's Superliner 3 or fill in the blank or whatever
Yeah.
it is? I mean, there's a lot of questions there, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jim, I think it's spot on. We are learning a lot. We positioned, I think our timing, coincidentally was really good. The greater emphasis on private rooms and how we talk about the sleeping car product was, spot on for COVID. And you're right, demand has been strong. Of course, it's been a situation of reduced supply as well, right? So there is scarcity in some cases for sleeping car products because of the reduced schedules. But we think generally, and we actually ran more sleeping cars than we originally intended through COVID, which was in several times in cases we were able to add additional cars and meet the demand that was there. But you're right, the pricing has tended to increase because of that scarcity. And whether that will normalize more as we go forward, or whether the sort of the demand is at a new plateau that we've raised awareness and such, that'd be a quality problem to have, right? But also why we're more interested and willing to keep investing and making sure the product is right, and that we can feel like we're delivering a good value to people. And really the bedroom product, of course, is the premier product. So we're hopeful that people will perceive good value even if prices go higher. It does have impact on fleet planning, and we do have upper bound of how many sleeping cars we even have available at the peak of the peak in the Superliner fleet. And I think we would probably by summer of 22, we'll probably wish that we had more sleeping cars than we have. And of course, that's not easily addressed in the short term. But there are some actions that we, can potentially take in the near term. But you're right about the long term. I think that will have bearing on what is our significant future investment that will be required to replace eventually the long distance fleet. And that is really, once the intercity train decision is fully executed and finalized, which, as you know, is sort of right on the doorstep. And I sit as eagerly as anybody, not knowing not being part of that process. I honestly don't know what the decision is, so I'm
Here's
with
your
you there.
car. Congratulations. Go run a business.
So, but we will be turning, the company's broader attention and the fleet planning experts, really turning to what is the strategy on the long distance fleet for the next generation. And, we're hopeful that that sleeping cars need to be a bigger and maybe even a higher share of the, or need to grow, disproportionately in terms of that future fleet.
Mhm. Okay, we are over time.
Oh my
As
goodness.
I said earlier, what I'm going to do is there are folks who have raised their hands, there are folks who've put questions in the chat. I'm going to ask that we grab those questions from chat, and I'll shoot them over to you.
Thank you.
And maybe we can kind of work our way through those and get those answers back to folks. But we are over time, and I do want to make sure that we stick to that. Larry, this has been terrific. As always, it's great to see you. Great to talk with you. And thank you so much for the invitation. I can't wait to go
Yep.
take a walk through some of this
Hope it'll
equipment.
be a good experience. And thank you for today. This is really great. And good luck with your day on the Hill. And appreciate all that the RPA is doing.